Hello and welcome to the Feedback Show. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Croaky Bradley.
A little bit of a frog in your throat today, Dad.
I have, yeah, a little bit croaky these days. Never mind, I'm battling on.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, so this is the Feedback Show. This is where we take your work sent into us by you, our members of colinbradleyart.com, and we offer our advice. Well, you offer your advice. I simply scroll down the page and try and make sense of what
Right.
you're saying. Um, so this is a service for members, members only, but we like to present them on YouTube so that everyone can learn from the advice and the tips. So even if you're not a member, hopefully you'll pick up some useful tips today. So the first one we have is from Greg, and Greg's done your prowling tiger picture. He says, "Hello, Stephen Colin. I
Hmm.
enjoyed painting this piece, and overall, I'm pleased with it. I would like to ask Colin for his opinion on a few things." Okay, let's take these one by one. Number one, is there too much green in the upper portion of the background?
Uh, I don't think so. Actually, there's no reason why it has to be as dark as mine. I like it dark because it gives the contrast.
Hmm.
But no, there's nothing. I would have just at one point though, as it's coming out of the dark, I would have recessed some of that green. If this, I don't think this is what Greg's talking about. The grasses that could have been brought down a bit. If you look at mine, it's really only the lower third of the picture where the grasses has hit the light, and that coincided with the light hitting the tiger, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So there's little things like that. But Greg, don't worry about this. You're doing a great job, and I wouldn't worry about little things like that. But try to pick up what I say and think, okay, next time I shall add a little bit more. If you look at the back leg, for instance, and look how dark it is alongside it, if that had continued right across to the far side, the left side, that would look better than having put that grass in.
Hmm.
See what I mean? It would have looked a little better. The right hand side is not so bad at all. It's only that left hand side that would bug me a little bit.
Yeah.
But you can still do that. You can still put some a little bit of, if you're using pastel, soft pastel, you could use it. If you're not using soft pastel, you could put a bit of dark. I would probably put a bit of black in there and use it with a colour shaper
Hmm.
and get rid of some of that grass. If it was me, that's what I would do.
Okay. Number
Next
two,
question.
is the rear part of the tiger overly orange and bright in contrast to the head and the front leg?
Yes, it is. Simple answer to that. It, if you look at mine again, you'll see that it's not as bright as that. It's not as strong as that, and mine recesses almost from the tip of the ear. If you look at the tip of the left ear backwards, it recesses from there, and yours doesn't do that. Yours has got quite a long way to go before it gets to that. So yes, the answer is you have, and that could be quietened again. Once again, it's another. This is a very difficult picture, and I admire people doing it. To be honest,
Yeah.
but that can be. That's how it's done anyway.
Okay. Number
And could
three.
there be an improvement to the grassy area? Well, I've already said part of that. If you darken the edge, the, the grass is. I would defy anybody really, say a professional artist, to be able to create the kind of grass look that I've got. It looks dead easy, doesn't it? But it's not. It's really hard. The There isn't really an answer to this at the moment. I think that as our members move on and get more experienced, they get a little braver. And this is where you need to be. You need to be a bit braver. You need to be braver with your strong colours. If you look at the colours that you've got there, you put the grasses in, but you haven't got the contrast. There's no contrast in that grass. Yet the whole picture relies on contrast.
Hmm.
You see my point? And so this is something that you will get better at as time goes on, but you've got to be brave. You've got to be able to say, oh well, and I might as well go for it and go for it. I don't necessarily in this picture. I wouldn't do it on this picture, but if you've got a spare paper again, my old spare paper rule, you could do this again, not the whole tiger, but the grassy area again, and try to emulate what I've done or similar to what I've done.
Mm.
But what you've got to do, you've got to also be prepared to use soft pastel, which is the key to this, because the soft pastel will, the greens will travel over the dark color. So you can put the dark color in, then you can put the greens on top. With pastel pencils, that's not so easy to do.
Mm.
But
Okay.
that's, I still think it's a good picture. It's just that you're right. All the things you've picked them up, and I just agree with you.
Mm. Okay. Excellent. I hope that helps, Greg. And thanks for sending it in. Next one, a couple of questions here from Gabrielle. I recently received 2 commissions from one customer who wanted to have both dogs on a 50 by 70 centimetre sheet. I have problems compiling the 2 dogs onto one sheet as the 2 pictures have different proportions. My question is, how do you pick the right compilation like you did with your Hungarian Vizslas? I decided on doing the 2 dogs on 2 different sheets and to get a double mount as I did once before, but would really like to learn the 2 on the one sheet. Can subjects be of different proportions and still look good? What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, the answer is yes, it can be. I've seen it done before, but you've got to be clever at this. You've got to put them. You can't put them side by side, absolutely side by side, and have one big and one small. It won't work that way. What you have to do is to pull one back, as though it is that far away. Oh, well done, that man.
I thought I'd just bring this one in
Now,
just to show as a
yes,
contrast.
but you see what I mean, though. You see the dog in the front. Now he's in the front, and he's obviously in front of the other dog. Now these were 2 different photographs. They weren't. I had to put the photographs together, which is what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, the other dog can go back a bit, which he did. So when you get the impression when you look at it, they're not side by side. If they were nose to nose, right, it wouldn't have worked. Because you could have had mummy and baby or mummy and pup,
Yeah.
which is not the idea. It wouldn't have worked with the dogs you've got there. So yes, it does work, but that's how you do it. You pull one back, you make it smaller but further away. Now you've just got to work that out, folks. Yourself. I can't help you any more than I've done on that. But I've done this several times in the past and in other commission work when I used to do it, and that's how you get over it. So that's answered your question. Yes. Can you do it to the one above? You can, because the background color you've got there, which is quite nice, that grey background on the dog that you've completed, would also work with the other one. The only difficulty you have with this is the lighting. Now, the lighting's not bad, actually. I think you get away with it because the color, the lighting generally is on the right side of both animals. A little bit more obvious on the other one, but then you've tempered that. So yes, I think you probably could, but you'd have to pull that dog back a bit. And the other thing you couldn't do, you can't have the whole body there because it wouldn't work. You see what I mean? You couldn't do it that way because it just wouldn't work. You'd have to do what I've done with the Vizslas.
Right.
Same way.
Okay.
Not easy though.
Yeah.
I mean, you're asking a question that I've given you a reasonable answer, but you've just got to work these things out yourself. I'm afraid that's just the way it is. Or do what you suggested. Exactly right. You do 2 different pictures. They can be side by side with a mount.
Yeah.
A double mount. Mounted side by side. That would work very well. I've done that in the past before as well.
So Gabrielle's completed this one dog here on the left, and any feedback on that one would be appreciated. Is there any tips you can pick up on this one here?
No, I don't think so. I kind of, the only problem that you've got, I tell you what, you've got your magic tool again, and I'll show you how I get out of this one. Right, it's not going to be easy because you're going to end up with a squarer picture, but I can help you there. Right hand side of that edge, bring it in, Steve. That's it, right? Now, okay, that's probably okay. We may have to do some more alterations there, but never mind. Now, bring the bottom up. Now, stay there because that's all right. Or you could drop down a little bit. Just drop it down just a touch more, Stephen. Now, what you do now is you forget that little dark bit. You see that dark bit right at the bottom on the left-hand side? You've got a dark bit. That's it. Forget that. That doesn't happen. That doesn't exist. you continue the line of fur down there and get rid of that dark,
Right.
because it don't go nowhere. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
It's not bad. I must admit, it looks better now than it did before. Do you see what I mean? And also, you've got a better proportion as well.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Things like
Right?
that just don't seem to make, if there's doesn't seem to be enough of a reason to put it in. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's right. And the other thing you could have done, you could have not actually, you could have done what I've done with the Vieslers. You
So
could have,
cut
same
it.
idea. You just could have, well, you just could have, I can't explain it better than that. You just do instead of doing the whole body
Yeah.
and cutting the body off, you um, you splinter or fragment the bottom. Or I've done it in fragmentation with the Beezers, but actually that can be done with just cloud. You just a cloud. It's probably harder to do what I've done with that
Yeah.
as that you've done. But you could do it because you could just bring that colour round, the colour that you've got there round. That's what I do.
Great. Okay, well, good advice there, Dad. Thanks for doing that. I think that's interesting and good for other people that potentially thinking of having two subjects on one piece of paper. I think that's not easy to do.
I'd avoid it like, no, Steve, my recommendation is avoid it like the plague until you really, really know what you're doing. And have a bit of experience in it, because it's very hard to do and get it right. I mean, people, when they ask these things, the customers, they say, oh, you're an artist, you can do it. Oh, yeah, that's right. They don't realise how difficult it actually is to do.
Yeah. Excellent. Nice one, Gabrielle. Thanks. This next one comes from Tournay. Hello, Colin and Steve. This is the result of me trying to do the Indian chief. I call him Sitting Bull, and I can assure you that he had to sit quite a long time before I had finished. This is such a lovely portrait. I simply had to have a go at it. I struggled with the long feathers, did a lot of rubbing out and changing colours, but anyway, all in all, I'm quite satisfied. The other things was the lines in the face. I think mine became a bit too strong, but at the end, I could not fiddle anymore. I'm not so happy with the background. First time to use soft pastels, and I struggled to get the light colours. I have to practice. So what can you pick up here?
Well, yes, I can. I can pick up. I think you've done really well there. That's another real toughie. Any portraits are tough, but that is particularly tough. I don't think necessarily your lines are too strong. I think they have to be to create the effect that we want there. I mean, if you'd have made him, smoother, he wouldn't have been as old as he is there and weathered as he is there. And the idea was, when I did that originally, Steve, we had a lot of people asking, how do you do wrinkles? And I thought, okay, let me do wrinkles. But I did something rather than just any old person with wrinkles.
Yeah.
I decided to do him, which was much more attractive. As far as the rest of it's going to, not bad. The background is going to be always going to be difficult. The halo effect that you've got going all around there is just a bit off-putting. What you do, you see, the halo itself, it's because you've got the dark, and then suddenly, within a whisker of the nose, you've got a light. Now, if you look at mine, you'll see it's evenly spread across that area. So that's what you needed to do, really. You need to spread it out a bit more, and that's the thing that would make a big difference to that. But it's your first time with soft pastels, for goodness sake. You can't expect to be that good that quick. It takes practice.
Yeah.
But I think considering the subject material and how hard that was, you've done pretty well. So congratulations.
Excellent. Oh, well done. Okay. Next one from Ian. Morning, Stephen. I've been asked to paint this lovely spaniel in full flight with ears flapping in the breeze. While I am finding the ears quite difficult, I'm doing okay, but I do not wish to attempt to draw the straw in the foreground. In the original picture, there was also sky and trees in the background, which I removed. Was I right to do this? If I make it a neutral colour, what main colour should it be?
So, well, I would replace the straw with grass. I just use grass, and we've got loads of pictures that you can look at
Yeah.
on our site. You've only got to look at I can't think of any offhand, but I know there are. I mean, even the fox would even work. But the fact that you've got him in flight is good. You've got quite a lot of shadow. You can use that shadow on the grass to give you a lovely lifting effect, as though he's lifting off the ground. No, I think you've done really. You'll do okay with this. It's a lovely picture. I wouldn't worry about sky. There's no point in doing that in this situation. I'm just making the grass recede beyond his ears into the background, but make it recede. You'll know how to do that if you look at my pictures. You'll see there's so many that where I've used the greys, the light 230 comes to mind immediately, and then the 172, which is the greyish green, that can forward and gradually introduce your warmer colours as they come towards the front. The earthy colours, I should say. I shouldn't say warm because I don't think greens are warm, but anyway, green earthy colours as they come to the foreground, and then you can be really. It's about. You'd have to keep the texture of the grass going to around about where his tail is. Then you can recede from there. That's what I would do if I was doing it.
Okay.
I wouldn't. You wouldn't. You can't have them hovering in midair. Whatever you did, whatever color you put in there, if it was just a plain color, they'd be hovering. You can't have that. So you've got to have texture there to make it work.
Yeah.
Remember this, folks, and I've told you many times before, if you put pause in anywhere, you've got to have a texture. You've got to have texture to it. You can't just put it in a cloudy background. It won't work.
Yeah. Okay. Good tips. Good tips. Yeah. Oh, well, Ian, you're on the right track with that. You're on the right track. Okay, next one from Jill. Hi, Stephen Colin. I've been wondering if I'm doing right by not putting every detail in the body of this dog. I put more of a suggestion of the pattern. Do you think I should have put in what I can see, even though it would take ages? Also, as you can see, I have cut a lot of the body, including his legs, as I didn't think it would look right, so I left it as just head and shoulders. Would you have left it in and added grass? By the way, thanks for your last feedback. I'm always grateful. So,
right. Well, first of all, I wouldn't have added grass. No, that's gets rid of that one. Two, I would have fogged it, a bit like we've done with the visas we talked about earlier. So probably just a bit lower on the right-hand side. It could have come down a little bit lower, and then done an angle across. So, and that angle can be artistically acceptable. It doesn't have to be a sharp angle. It can be I've got again loads and loads of pictures where I've done this, not just to dogs and cats, but other animals as well. So look at those and check them out. Now, as far as the picture is concerned, for the definition, yes, I would. I'd have increased that more. The reason I say that is because if you look at the area under the mouth and the chin, right, you've got a dark area on the animal, and you put a dark area on our little friend here, but I don't think you've got the colour right. It looks to me to be more the colour of the head. You just put grey on. So I think I would have increased some of that liverish colour and put that in rather than the grey, because it's a little bit chalk and cheesy, that. And you won't get you won't get an animal that works like that. You'll always have some influential. Influence. That's the word. Some influence of the colour in the animal in the fur, and you haven't got it there. You've got it grey. Well, that's what it looks like anyway. And I think if you look at it now, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't have
and I would have
done,
before. And I would have made it a bit stronger because it makes it a little better, just a little better. The only exception to that rule, all right, there is one, and that is the area where the ear, the left ear, and the body come together. I think I probably would have left it as you've done it, there because it's recession, slight recession.
Yeah, it's
But
separate.
that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would try very hard to make it a portrait as well. You've got a square picture there. Don't like square pictures.
Mm.
You can do that by making a little bit more of the top, all right? Or, now you're not going to like me for this, all right? On the right-hand side, Steve.
Yeah, you cut the ear off.
You know what I'm going to do, don't you? Go on. That's it. Right. Now, stop. No, perhaps a little bit, perhaps a bit brutal there. That's it. Sometimes you can trim it because if you leave the ear there, theoretically, you've got to add more colour on that side. But the way I've done it now, you wouldn't have to do that. Okay, the poor person will have to accept that he's lost his ear, a bit of his ear. But sometimes you have to think more. I've done this a couple of times. I don't know whether you've actually seen it recently, Steve. I know you've got some pictures that haven't been released yet where I've done this, and it works really well. Don't do it to the other one though. Don't have him trimmed on both ears. One ear is enough. Because it's obvious to everybody looking at it. He has got the other ear. He hasn't lost it. And then if you did that bottom, as I've suggested, that would extend the bottom by a couple of inches, I would think, because you remember you're fogging it underneath, so you've got that colour that you've got in the background will follow through there.
Yeah.
And you could have it a little higher on the top, which would eventually give you a portrait size.
Yes, I see.
That's a good tip, folks. Take it on board. I know it's brutal, but that will work.
It makes it more of a portrait size, which is just a bit more aesthetically pleasing on the eye, isn't it? Just a little bit.
You've hit the nail on the head when you said that. Yeah, I was waiting for something like that. It's better. It looks better. It has a more pleasing look. And after all, this is what you're meant to be doing. You're meant to be making a picture as attractive as you can.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Jill. I hope that's helped, and others watching. Last submission today from Jenny. Hi, Stephen and Colin. I've recently reproduced the two dogs attached, and I thought I would ask whether I'm on the right track with the fur, particularly in the body. I'm trying to produce a curly effect while keeping a realistic fur look. Should we start with that there?
Yes, certainly. Well, this is you've chosen one of the hardest things to do. First of all, light coloured animals, and then where do you put the dark? And you've put one area of dark where you shouldn't have it, and that's with the ear, because it's chalk and cheese situation. If you look at the animal you're copying it from, it doesn't have that line. It has an inclination of shadow, but it hasn't got a line.
You're talking about this animal.
It's a line, not a line. How many times I've said that? That's it. Yeah. So that's got to come out, really. But what do you replace it with? Well, if you look at the picture that you're looking at, on that, the actual shadow is on the head, not the ear. Now you could say, yeah, well, I've done that. Yeah, but you haven't. You've done it, but you've made it too sharp and overemphasized that, and that's the bit that sticks out. Now, as far as the fur is concerned, are you on the right track? Yes, you are, but you haven't quite got it together yet. You've got to put more colour. I said earlier that you've got to be brave. Well, here you've got to be brave. You've got to start thinking of colours. The colours here would have been I would stick to warmer colours, white obviously, and then I would have used the 270 probably here, which is a warm grey for a little bit of colour, and then I would have used 273. Now you think 273, if you put 273 straight onto it, which is what you've done, I can see in the fur you've done it, it's a bit harsh. But if you combine the 273 or put on first or after, certainly more or less at the same time, the 187 or 186 and 187, you'd have to try it and see how it works. Those two colours would give you the colour of that dog. But you've got to play with the colour. Again, this is where paper will work. You've done it to a certain extent. I can see it in the animal, but you haven't been brave enough with it.
It's a little bit or here, isn't there? There's a little bit of that. Seems to be a little patch here. Could be just extended.
Have you got? Get your magic tool out again, Steve. I'm going to alter this one for you as well. Remember what you see, folks. Now, right? Now
I'll
I'm
tell you
going to alter
what.
it. The bottom.
That'd be super clever. At the
Oh,
bottom.
is there no end to this man? Ability. Keep going. Keep going. No, not quite so much as that. That's a bit brutal. There, stop there. Now, what am I going to do, Steve? I'm going to cut the ear off again. That's it. That's it. Right, stop. Now, there you go. Now, is that not a more pleasing portrait?
It's a bit more focused on the head,
Okay,
isn't it? You've taken the
it
focus from the
is.
body to
It
the
is.
head.
Just on its own. I'm not. I don't necessarily think it's a great picture, to be honest, but you've improved it. Unfortunately, you're going to have to sign it again. But what you've got, you see, if you look at that picture of yours, you've got a lot of nothing going on. And when you've got a lot of nothing going on, you've got to make things happen. You've got to make it work. And the best way, if you can't make it work, which is difficult because the animal itself is hard to do, then you've got to do something a bit more drastic than that. Anyway,
so it keeps it.
for what it's worth.
Yeah, it keeps it a bit more of focused interest, isn't it, on the interesting part of the animal, which is the face and it is the eyes and everything.
That's right.
It pulls your focus towards that.
That's right. No, that's great. Okay, now what about the other one? I think we've done her proud on that one. Jenny should be pleased.
Okay.
Now what about that one? Now this second one is lovely. Yeah.
So what would you do here with the curly fur? I mean, it's not easy
There's
to
nothing
see.
nothing I can suggest you. You've got to look at all the pictures I've got. You've got to be brave. The best thing I can give you, the best advice I can give you, you've got to be brave, and you've got to put those colours in. And you've done a good job. The nose is great. The eyes are good. The mouth is not bad at all. I'd love to have seen a little bit more shadow on the animal because it's the shadow that gives dimension. If you don't put any shadows anywhere, you've got a little bit around the eye, then you do tend to make it look flat. So a little bit would have helped there. But generally speaking, I think you've done a really good job of it. And if I was mounting that picture and framing it, I'd take a little bit off the right-hand side, just a little bit. I'd leave the ear in this time, Steve, if you do it.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side, leave the ear in. That's it. Stop. And now come down from the top.
More?
No, leave it at that. That's all right. So a little trim like that can make a big difference to you're cutting out surplus.
Yeah.
Unnecessary picture. The other thing I would have done there on the right, you can't do anything with the picture here. On the left-hand side, just below the ear, you have a diagonal line coming from the face off. I'd have lost that. Not altogether, but certainly half of it, I would have fogged it out. I could have done the bottom.
What, around
it would
here?
have looked better because just that bit there. Yeah. Brought the background down, in other words. Fogged it out. Because it's a little bit... When you get a line like this, folks, right, this is a good tip. You suggest to the person looking at your picture that the dog goes on and on and on, and that line extends right down ad infinitum. And that throws the proportion of the animal completely out. Because if you look at the animal, it doesn't work that way. It stops. In fact, if you look at the animal where you've got the ear coming round, it actually goes straight down, not across like you've done it. So you're suggesting something that doesn't work there. Another little tip, but it's all learning. It's all a learning game, and if you can learn things like that, believe me, you're well on your way.
Well, last little tip here that we could hopefully help Jenny on is she's finding with the lighter colours that it's difficult covering the grain of the paper, and I'm concerned about crushing the paper with too many layers. I don't seem to have this problem as much with the darker shades. So anything?
Well, funny enough, I would say that you have more problem with the darker shades, or should do. It depends on what I would have done there. I'd certainly put the white on first. Make sure you got a good coat of white, Then I'd put the grey on, 270 I was talking about. Then you add your colours. Now, if you've got enough colour or enough base colour, you should never have a problem with any of the colour showing through. You shouldn't do. Presumably, I'm presuming you're using our ombre paper there.
I'm not too sure. I can't see any tooth.
Well, if you're not, I don't
Possibly
know whether
are.
I can help you too much on that.
Possibly are. It's difficult to say.
Oh well,
but
that's another thing though.
I was going to say it don't seem to have any problem with the lighter colours. Like from what we're seeing here, it seems to be covered.
No, well, that's right. I don't have. I've certainly never had a problem with lighter colours. I don't have a problem with darker colours either, because what you do with the darker colours is you make sure again you've got a good mid-tone background and colour in there before the dark colours go on. But those are examples. We do have a poodle exercise.
Oh yeah.
That it might be worth looking at.
Oh yeah.
It might be worth looking at that.
Yeah.
Jenny, revisit it. It's not a long one.
No. Yeah, it's a good point.
It's only a head, but it's a good one. And the other one that could help you is the black and white spaniel. Forget the black bit, but that's also got a lot of shadow in it. And again, it will help you understand what I'm trying to say to you.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, Jenny. Well done. I hope that's been useful for everyone. We've covered quite a lot today, Dad. You've earned a cup of tea and a rest. Afternoon off.
Yeah. Go on.
So, thanks everyone for sending in your pictures. Keep them coming as normal. This is a service reserved for members only. So if you want to become a member, then head to colinbradleyart.com and click the sign up button along the top, and you can find out all about our membership and what we offer. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another feedback show. Podcast is up on our website from last week, and lots of people enjoying listening to that. And our podcast, a new one, will be up next Friday. So, good. Thanks, Dad.
That's all right. Pleasure's mine.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Bye for now.